Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Enrico DeCastro, and you are tuning in to the What's in Your Case podcast. Our guest today is an artist who is inspired by folk, indie, and Riot Grrrl. She started out writing at the age of 8, and during the pandemic wrote, recorded, and released her first EP, Second Half. She's been interviewed on Sacramento's KSSU radio, as well as the KDVS Davis Radio. Striving to pursue music, my guest, my friend, Viva.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on.
So besides music, do you have other things that you're passionate about? From what I've seen, you're a musician first, then an actor, filmmaker, photographer. What other avenues of creativity do you like to explore?
Sure, great question. Well, so I'm currently a sophomore at the University of California, Los Angeles, and my major is theater, so I'm pursuing theater on like an academic higher collegiate level. I actually just starred in this last quarter's department production of one of our shows called The Courage to Right a Woman's Wrongs, which is this classical show that was such a fun project to be a part of. But I'd say that I'm definitely love acting and have really put that on the front burner since I've been at college at least. And so that's one of my big passions. I also love, like you said, similar to music, but like producing and mixing is something that I'm really trying to work on and get better at. I love the technicality as well as the creativity that it has. It's really a skill that's super important to learn as a musician, but it also gives flexibility to all these different possibilities for what you want your own music and other people's music to sound like, which is amazing. I dabble in sewing. Actually, as I speak right now, there's a sewing project of a skirt that I'm making right now on my floor. And I love patchwork and embroidery. So I love crafting and knitting. Any sort of creativity I'm a fan of.
May 10th, 2021, you posted that there may be hope for your camera and you're going to take it to the shop for repairs because you didn't want to give up on your dream of being a camera dad. Was the shop able to repair your camera?
It was able to repair my camera, but I realized that film photography is such an expensive hobby that couldn't justify paying like $40 to develop a roll at a shop. So I have some very cherished film photos, but I don't do that as much, at least film photography as much.
And then as someone with zero photography experience myself, I want to know, what do you look for when you're taking pictures? Or what is a good tip if I wanted to start taking pictures?
I would say just with any hobby, look for things that you're passionate about, things that intrigue you, whether that be people or whether that be still life or nature or cityscapes. I think that look for the niche in photography and the subjects of what you're capturing. Look for what intrigues you there and what's fun to play with. Because I think the funness of it all is going to be really intriguing and going to make you want to pursue that hobby more.
And one thing that I've noticed is that for all of your album art, you use photos. What are some of the things that you consider when you're picking out what photo to use for your album art?
Great question. So for my first EP, I chose a photo that my dad took. The EP photos, it's for my EP Second Half. It was released in 2020 as part of a school project. And I was looking in my basement through all of these boxes of old film photos that my parents had. And I came upon this one and I loved the composition of it. It's a photo of a van to the right with two palm trees to the left, a road in the background, and then a beautiful Death Valley blue sky. And that was a picture of the first time my parents went on a road trip together. And to them, that's when we knew that we wanted to get married. And so it has some sentimental value behind it. But that composition coupled with the fun story and kind of the vintage wash on top of it, I really liked and felt like summed up the kind of grassrootsy DIY EP that I was putting out.
And then apart from photography, you're also a filmmaker. I checked out the short film that you directed called Sunday Kind of Love.
Yeah, it's based off the Etta James song. Yeah, I did that in my junior year of high school, and I was listening to that song just through passing periods in class, and I could not get like my own movie in my head. I could not get it out of my head. I just had this series of images and this storyline building with this very sweet 50s, 60s love song. And I had this idea of like, what would it be like if you took this sweet love song and then coupled it with the contrast of this kind of darker story. And how does that contrast kind of give you a creepy vibe? And how does it kind of make you feel uneasy with this difference in the plot and the story, and then the words and the lyrics and the sound of the song? So that was something I was experimenting with there.
And then what was it like for you directing your own short film, if you could remember back then?
Yeah. I know it was a while ago, but I had the most fun ever. It's kind of when I realized that I really like directing. I've done some directing in college. I took a intro to directing class and directed my own scene, which was super, super fun, and also reignited this love that I first found when I was a junior in high school directing this film. It was so cool because it's like you're the captain of the ship, and you get to call the shots. You get to figure out what the composition of each shot you want is. I got a storyboard, the whole thing, and it was a lot of work. I think I had 120 different shot compositions that I had written down in my storyboard already. But I was the most magical thing to see it all come together from something that I just listened to in passing period in my head to a full-fledged product that I could show to other people.
Do you plan on making any music video short films for any of your songs?
Yeah, I really want to. I was actually thinking about that recently. Not obviously, but I released my first debut album just over a year ago now, which is crazy to think about. And there's a couple songs on there where I was like, the story and the lyrics that I have in these songs would make really good music videos. So I've had some thoughts brewing. So we're going to have to see.
May 24th, 2023. You claim to be a knitter from day one. What led you to learn how to knit? And what are your favorite things that you've knitted?
Great question. Yeah, knitting is definitely one of my hobbies, along with crafting and any other sort of fiber art I love, which I mentioned before. I started to knit in that photo, actually, from that post that you're talking about. There's a photo of me as a little girl knitting on my grandma's couch, and my grandma always used to knit. And so she taught me. I have very vivid memories of her teaching me how to knit and how to purl and all the different stitches. So let's see. I started knitting when I was a little girl, and then I didn't do it for a while. And then in COVID, I picked it back up because, of course, what else did we have to do? And I found it invigorating. And my favorite thing was just to put on a record or put on a podcast or a show I liked and then knit, because you got to like watch this awesome piece or listen to this awesome piece of entertainment, but then you also feel really productive. So it's a win-win. I've knitted countless amounts of scarves because also in COVID, I decided to knit every single person I knew a scarf. So maybe I've knitted up to 20 scarves. My favorite thing that I've knitted, so I moved to LA for school and I really wanted to keep up knitting, but it's so beautiful and perfect always in LA in terms of the weather. It's always 70 degrees. So I can't really put on a big hat or gloves. So I decided to make a new invention called the micro scarf, which is like a really, really thin scarf that curls in on itself. And I made it my favorite color, which is like lichen green. And I decided to wear it because it was like very good for the weather in LA. And so I made my very own, very small micro scarf. That's probably my favorite project I've done.
So knowing your background, you grew up in a very music-positive household with your mother and grandparents being musicians and creatives. Do you think that is a leading factor of why you decided to pursue music? Or what is music to you?
I think that's a great question. And definitely, I would say the background and the memories I have of music creates a really positive perception of everything I associate with music. Since I've grown up having memories of hearing my grandfather play his folk songs on guitar, or my grandmother play piano, my mom play her own music on guitar and help me write my own songs and really encourage that in me. I've begun to view music as this very family-centered thing, and just playing the guitar allows me to reconnect to that and reconnect to all of my awesome family members who have also done the same thing. And because of that, I think music is way more than just scales or notes. To me, it's remembering where I'm from and being able to reconnect and connect with my family members. My grandpa just came back and visited us. He lives on the East Coast. He's 91 years old, which is so young. If he's listening to this, or if he does listen to this. And he still plays guitar and he still plays tennis. He's awesome. He's in his own band. But some of my favorite memories with him are playing Bob Dylan songs or other folk songs on the guitar. And he still knows every lyric better than I do. He calls me out. So it really allows me to connect to my family members.
Community is an important aspect of your philosophy. You and I actually met at a community event, one of the Songwriter Circle meetups.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I have very, very fond memories of that.
How important is a good community for growing and uplifting artists?
I think it's imperative. I think that it's extremely difficult to make meaningful art without having a meaningful community. I think art and community, there's a direct correlation between the two. And I think art can be something that is created out of isolation, of course. But I think that in the end, art is shared with other people. So disregarding the creation process behind it, art always becomes some sort of social thing that brings people together. And so if you don't have your own community where you're bringing people together through your art or through whatever it may be, I think it's really hard to understand why you're creating art. I think community is the fuel which helps create art.
And then you said that you are going to school in SoCal. How are you enjoying the music scene out there?
I really, really like it. There's a bunch of really talented people. And I think what I love about being based in LA is that there's always something happening. There's never a dull moment, even on campus. UCLA is a little far west of downtown LA. It's in West LA. But even on campus, we're so big. We have upwards of 30,000 people. We are our own little city. We have our own zip code. And so because of that, there's always something happening. I joined the UCLA Music Club. I have done multiple band nights. I've met banjo players. I played my first music festival at UCLA, which was a bike-powered music festival called Coast Along. And I got to open for this band called Mapache. And it was the first time that I played with a full band. And I had a remarkable drum player. I had an awesome backup vocalist who's also one of my best friends and is also majoring in music, and she's absolutely incredible. I had a bassist. I was on guitar and lead vocals, and then I had an awesome fiddle player play with me, Miles Quayle, who's in his own band, and he is just toured in Hawaii and is toured in Japan, and he's just absolutely incredible, and he was able to come and play. And so having all these awesome musicians from all these different pockets of the world all in one place because we all go to this school is magical, and I feel so lucky to have had that opportunity.
So the Coast Along Music Festival, April 27th, that opportunity came along because you immersed yourself within that community of musicians.
Yeah, exactly. I met a friend who was on the board of the Coast Along Music Festival, and I was friends with him, and he encouraged me to audition. And so I think exactly because of that friendship that's how I really knew that festival existed as a first year at this university. So I totally think the opportunities you get totally rely on the people that you know and other musicians, in this case, that you're friends with.
During the summer, you had another opportunity to open up for Girls Rock Sacramento's concert.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was the loveliest experience. I am not from Sacramento. I grew up in Oakland and then moved to DC and grew up in DC. I've moved all over the place, but I came and I moved to Sacramento when I was in 7th grade. I was so scared because who wants to start middle school across the country? Like kind of the worst phase of school to start new with. But that said, my dad really encouraged me to try out and be a part of this girls rock camp. I had come from a very obviously musical background, as we talked about before. I'd played a little piano, and I like to sing. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be a part of the girls rock camp. And that's the first thing I did in Sacramento was to be a part and be in a band in girls rock called Sacramento Revival. That was our name. We had a week to write a song, our own song, and then perform at Ace of Spades. I was on keys. My dad just brought up the video, and I am physically shaking. Like, if you were in the audience, you could see me trembling, and I didn't look up once, and I was just focusing on playing my C and G chords on the keyboard. It totally changed how I view music and what I can do with music. I owe so much to Girls Rock. It put me on a path, and it made me realize as soon as I got to Sacramento that wow, like this city is different and you can really have the opportunity to do whatever you want. It's such a creative place. And I was surrounded again by people that I loved in a community that really lifted me up and pushed me to do that performance at Ace of Spades, even though I was scared out of my mind. And so it was so full circle this past summer to be able to open up for these same people that are going through this transition and this first hurdle, and just this amazing opportunity that you get as a young person to be able to showcase your musical talent and abilities to other people. And yeah, so it was incredibly full circle and very surreal. I just had the best time.
And you've played at a bunch of different types of stages, coffee shops, big stages like the concert at Ace of Spades. What would you say is your most ideal performing space?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it really depends on, I guess, the vibe that I'm going for. I played at the Memorial Auditorium for my graduation, and that was huge, like 3,000 people. That was incredibly shocking and scary, but also all of these people halfway through my performance. I was singing The Circle Game by Joni Mitchell for my graduation song, and every single person put up their phone flashlight. And I was just standing on the stage singing this one song, and I just saw this sea of lights that were swaying to the beat of the music that I was creating. And I started crying mid-performance. I was like, I feel like I'm not living. Like, I never thought that I would get to see that from the performer's perspective. And that wouldn't have happened in a coffee shop, because there would be 20 people versus 3,000 people. But that said, what you don't get from a big venue is the intimate side of music, which I think is so lovely, and really being able to connect to other people. So an example of a smaller show that I absolutely loved was, I'm a DJ on my school's radio, UCLA radio, and I have my radio show, which I'm going to have this upcoming quarter, called What Makes You Tick, Friday, 7 p.m., UCLAradio.com. But for my last closing show last year, I had a little mini concert inside of our DJ station or radio station, which can maybe fit upwards of 30 people. And so I had all of my friends crammed in, and people brought tea and people brought knitting and crafting. And then I performed with Liv Soul and my other friend Isabel, and she played banjo and Liv Soul did backup vocals. And we just went through a little set of this 30-person room filled with my favorite people that I've met in college. And it was really like a dialogue, like people would start talking and then it was a conversation rather than a performance, and that was lovely because you get to connect to people through music in a very intimate way. So I would say both have their pros and cons, but I would take any opportunity. I see positives to both.
So one cool thing that we get for being artist is the Spotify Artist Wrapped. December 3rd, 2022, you posted your Spotify Wrapped. That year you had 5.9K streams, 310 unique listeners, 274 hours of your music streamed, and you reached 24 countries. Analytics are one of the ways that we can see from a analytic side of things the fruits of our hard work. But at the same time, chasing those numbers can be inhibiting. Do you care about the analytic side of things? Or what are some of the things you do when the numbers don't meet your expectations?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think that whole idea is like the idea of analytics, and how much to weigh that is in terms of artistic success is something that every artist goes through, especially if you're an independent artist. I think that you weighed that perfectly. I think that on one hand, analytics are great to give you a sense of who's listening to your music, the type of demographics of people. And it's also just like a really cool thing to have. I know that the Spotify Wrapped is a very cool thing. The Artist Wrap is awesome because it's just really interesting to see what countries, like I think that's like there's someone that listens to my music in Austria, and that's just a cool thing to know. And so I appreciate that. I used to care a lot more about who streamed my music and how often it was being streamed and all of that. And I think that as I've had my music released for longer and released more music, I've at least, and I think it's different for everyone, but for me, releasing music is the success for me. is like I put that album out there and people have access to it and they can choose to listen to it and they can choose to not listen to it. I speak from a privileged point of view because I don't have to rely on music for income. And so I think because of that, I look at analytics in a different way as, oh, this is a really interesting fact and it's fun. But I also think that good art and art in general is not about how many people listen to your music. You know, that's measuring an entirely different thing. My art that I create, the songs I create are incredibly personal. And it means the world when people reach out and say, hey, like, I love this song, rather than, oh, I got X amount of streams. You know, for me, it's the individual connections and knowing that I truly made an impact through people reaching out to me or coming up to me or having conversations with people rather than a number.
All right, let's take a look at your discography. December 25th, 2020, that was when you released your EP Second Half, which consists of Second Half, Campfire Songs, Caramel Trees, and Underwater.
Mm-hmm.
This EP was recorded for a class you were taking during the pandemic, but you said it ignited your passion for you to fully dive into music making. Do you remember how you were feeling once you released your EP?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Yeah. God, wow. It was such a long time ago now. And it really doesn't feel like a long time ago. But it was just about this time. Wow. That's crazy to think about, actually. That is December 25th. Yeah, there you go. I was feeling like I was floating, you know, like I didn't feel like it was real. I was so excited. And I learned that people could independently release music just a couple months before that, you know, because it was a 6-month process. And it was part of this personal project for my high school. And I could do anything that I wanted to as long as I had some sort of, it was a passion project and I had some sort of timestamp tracking and logging the work that I was putting towards it. And I was like, you know what? It's COVID and I'm feeling kind of lost and I need something to kind of fuel my creativity and might as well just release my own EP. I was really into songwriting. I hadn't really touched the guitar before this project. And so this was really the first crack at releasing, writing, playing my own songs. And it was super hard. And so I think coming out the other end, I was incredibly proud and stunned, honestly, that it was even possible to accomplish. Because just 6 months prior, it was this sort of fantasy that I really secretly hoped I could do, but was kind of doubting myself. And so I was really proud of myself for being able to finally do that.
And then what kind of promoting and marketing did you do when you released Second Half?
Great question. I mean, honestly, at the time, I think I was 15. And so I was, again, like less of who's going to listen to my music and how many people will listen to my music and who's going to discover me, rather than this is a passion project and something I've been wanting to do. So I didn't focus too much on maintaining streams or following after. I would say through my school, since it was a school project and started as that, I played songs in front of my school at concerts. That was like my main social gathering. I mean, other than social media. And as a 15-year-old, I didn't really know what I was doing and kind of still don't as a 19-year-old. But I used, I would say, people-to-people connection, open mics, the Sacramento music scene and my school music scene as a way to get my voice heard.
August 17th, 2021, you released your single, Eat Your Words. I believe right now this is your most streamed songs.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of promotions did you do for this single that you didn't do for your first EP?
Well, at the time that I released this, I had a much larger following on social media when compared to my first EP. And I did a lot more social media promotion than I did before. I also worked in tandem with a friend of mine who helped me produce the song, Guillermo de la Torre, who I found through my school music club. And he really produced the song. And I think working with him really helped because the production was awesome on that song. And he was able to bring to life this vision that I could only imagine before. So I think working with him really helped. And then also the social media, I think promotion helped with that as well when compared to my first EP.
As you mentioned, you had some help with this EP. I believe his username was dat_mex23.
That's Guillermo de la Torre, yeah. He's awesome. He's a great guy and a very, very talented producer. Yeah, and he helped me produce this track. He mixed it. I recorded it and then I sent the track to him and then he mixed it. But this was all, again, it was still in COVID. Both of us didn't really feel comfortable going in a studio and recording it. So we did it virtually.
Is it like working with someone else on your songs? Because I know how personal songs can be, and letting someone else get their hands on it can be a bit of a different experience than doing something on your own.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it definitely was. But I think that being able to work with someone who had a lot more experience in production was actually really great for me because it allowed me to open up. It opened up all these possibilities that I didn't even realize were achievable before working with someone that really knew recording software and how to produce and mix. And so it really inspired me. I think that having that help on that song really inspired me to learn for myself about all of the different avenues that are available in production, and that producing and mixing is really a language, and it opens up all these doors for musicians.
November 11th, 2023, you released the album As Long As I Can, which consists of Eat Your Words demo, Sit Next to Me, As Long As I Can, I Won't Miss You, Wings, Drifting Apart, Feel Better, Tightrope, Alone Again, the live at KSSU version, and Garden Row. Was there any significance with the release date for this album?
I recorded all of this. I produced it. I recorded this and produced this myself. And I recorded the last week before I left for college, which was in September. And I had all of the bare bones tracks laid down, but I still needed a couple months to mix it and kind of work on that and figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. And so that was the timing. And then I was like, oh, November, like November 11th. Hey, 11/11. And I love my lucky numbers. So that's why I chose to release it on that date.
And then you had mentioned there were a few complications when it came to making the album. I believe originally it was going to be an in-studio album.
Yes. Yeah. So originally this album was going to be an in-studio album. I decided to make it a demo album. I wanted to work with the same guy that helped me produce Eat Your Words, but our schedules were really weird and there was a bunch of conflicts. I was going to college and things were pretty hectic. So it was really hard to really sit down and find time to hack out all of these songs because these songs take so long to really mix and produce and find a version that I think we both felt satisfied with. Well, we recorded a couple of them. Like we recorded a version of Feel Better and a version of As Long As I Can. And these, 2-3 minute songs took upwards of maybe 5 hours in studio time to record. And it was just a bunch of time that I think we both didn't have because we're very busy people. So I decided on my own, it'll be way easier if I just record it on my own time. It was a goal of mine before I left for college to really put out all these songs. I had them in my back pocket for a really long time, really ever since I moved to Sacramento. And it was kind of my own love letter to Sacramento before I left. And so I really wanted to do it for myself. And I'm glad I was able to.
Viva, do you name your instruments? And if so, what are their names?
Oh my goodness. Wait, that's a great question. I don't name my instruments, but maybe I need to. This is making me question everything. Do you name your instruments?
Oh yeah, I named my ukulele. I'm still thinking of names for the instruments that I got recently, but my ukulele is called Samugi, named after one of my favorite characters in the manga Sweets and Lightning.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I might take inspiration from you. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm having a revelation here. Okay, maybe next time you talk to me, I will have a name picked out for my guitar. I'm just so indecisive though. But this is such good news to know. I feel like I've finally seen the light.
You had mentioned before that you were in a production, was a musical theater production?
It was what we call a straight play. So there was no musical theater music in it. There was some music. There was guitar, and then there was a little dance and song at the end, which was fun. But it wasn't musical theater. It was a straight play. It was written in the 17th century by a female Spanish playwright called Ana Caro. And it was translated actually by a faculty member at UCLA recently as a part of this project called Diversifying the Classics, which is kind of siphoning in more work that is classical, but not just Shakespeare, and created by more diverse voices. And this play was absolutely amazing to be a part of. And it was all written in verse, which is like heightened text, which if you think about like Elizabethan English and Shakespearean words specifically, it was kind of that same cadence. And it was the most fun I've ever had. It was an absolutely amazing production to be a part of. I felt very, very lucky and incredibly privileged.
Thank you for being a guest here on the What's in Your Case podcast. Do you have anything you'd like to promote or tell the listeners where they can find your content?
Yeah, I mean, if you're based in LA, because I'm a UCLA student, I have a show at Sender One Rock Climbing Gym coming up at the end of January. The date is TBD, but you should definitely come out to that in Westwood, LA, and that'll be such a fun time. And then in terms of where you can find my music, I'm on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. You can find my music if you look up Viva, Eat Your Words, Viva Second Half, Viva As Long As I Can, which are the names of the music and discography I've released so far. I'm also on SoundCloud under Viva-Corliss. That's Corless. And SoundCloud, I release more demos, more fun projects I have. The latest song I released is my version of Vampire Empire by Adrian Lenker, written from the other perspective that I just produced. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Thank you so much. And then my Instagram is viva.c_. If you have any questions or any feedback, anything, or if you just want to follow me.